The New York Islanders honor Brent Sutter, then go out and beat the San Jose Sharks. We have all of that, plus a full preview of tonight's big game against the Blue Jackets. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. If you win your first bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, the New York Islanders had one game this weekend, and they won it, and they did it just after they honored Brent Sutter, who was inducted into the Islanders Hall of Fame, a well-deserved honor. We're going to talk more about Brent Sutter, plus the suspension of Maxim Tsyplakov. But first, the Islanders get the job done Saturday night in a steady, if unspectacular, 4-1 win over the San Jose Sharks. And look, this was not an artistic game, but it was a solid game. And you know what? If you're the New York Islanders right now, that is more than enough. You banked the 2 points. You played a team that is struggling in their rebuild, the kind of long rebuild that the Islanders are still hoping to avoid. And the Islanders took care of business. They were clearly the better team for the majority of this game. They outshoot San Jose 31-19. They play a solid game all the way around. Again, did they dominate? Were they overwhelming people? No. But at the same time, was there ever a point where you really thought the Islanders were going to lose this game? No, probably not. So you take it. Good news, Simon Holmstrom, Alexander Romanov, both back in the lineup for this game. So the scratches were Denis Chalowski, Matt Martin, and then, of course, Maxim Tsyplakov was suspended. And, you know, Tsyplakov got 3 games for that hit against the Philadelphia Flyers on Thursday. Here's what I'm going to say about this, just to sort of put a bow on it. You heard me on Friday. When I first saw the hit in real time, I thought it was a 5-minute major and a possible suspension. Depending on what angle I saw on the replay, I thought either the majority of the contact came to the shoulder. I don't think there was any intention on the part of Tsyplakov to do anything to injure or to make a headshot in that particular instance. But, the league referees reviewed it on the ice. They initially called a 5-minute major, and then they overturned that 5-minute major and declare that there was no penalty on the play. And then roughly, 12, 14 hours later, the Department of Player Safety overrules the referees who viewed the replay and say, yeah, it was a suspendable hit. 3 games for Maxim Tsyplakov. I don't know if 3 games was necessary, mainly because of this. Look, again, the inconsistency bothers me. Do I think it could have been a penalty and a suspension? Yeah. But Tsyplakov is not known as a dirty player. He is not a repeat offender. To me, this maybe should have been 1 game and a fine. But again, just memo to the NHL, be consistent in some way, shape, or form. If the referees on the ice review it and don't think it was a penalty, and then, the Department of Player Safety steps in and reverses that, just be consistent. And if the referees were unsure and declared it probably wasn't a penalty, don't give the guy 3 games. Give him 1, maybe 2. Again, I can't think you would see intent there. I don't think that, there's no reputation for Tsyplakov being dirty or anything resembling it. So, again, I question the consistency. I'm not going to fight too hard on the idea of some kind of supplementary discipline, but I want the league to be consistent. The left hand should know what the right hand is doing. And I think 3 games was a little bit harsh if you were going to choose to suspend Max Tsyplakov. All right. Overall, the Islanders, like I said, they did a good job of limiting the Sharks' chances. Marcus Hogberg, again, just continues to play well. Yeah, the 1 goal he allowed, maybe he wanted it back as far as the way he played the angle. But at the same time, this was a strong overall performance. 18 saves in 19 shots. Hogberg, by the way, if you look at his numbers right now for the season, he has a 1.32 goals against average and a 952 save percentage. And Islander fans, just in case, he started 4 games, played in 6. He's 2-2. The guy has a 1.32 goals against average and a 952 save percentage, and he's 2-2 in 4 starts. What that says about the Islanders' offensive inconsistency, I think we're going to let it speak for itself. But Hogberg, another strong performance, and a little bit of a surprise that Patrick Roy turned to Hogberg in this game. But, shouldn't be too big of a surprise because he's riding the hot hand. A solid performance by Matthew Barzal with a goal and an assist. And it was great to see Barzy shoot on the odd man rush and get results. Brock Nelson, also a goal and an assist. And we all know the Islanders need Nelson to be on track if they're going to make any kind of a run at a playoff spot. So good to see Nelson do that. Anthony Duclair had an assist, made a really nice play on that one again. And Noah Dobson and Ryan Pollock, the defense corps, scoring 2 of the goals in this game. That was encouraging. 9 hits for Casey Cizikas in this game. I don't want that to be overlooked. 7 for Mark Gatcomb, who was called up because of the Tsyplakov suspension. Gatcomb, 3 shots on goal, 7 hits in 11 minutes and 23 seconds of ice time. And again, in this game, because there was only 1 penalty on each team, Patrick Roy able to roll 5 lines. And you know what? The Islanders playing 5-on-5 by far benefits the New York Islanders maybe more than it benefits any other team in the league right now. And why is obvious. You've got the worst power play in the league, the worst penalty kill in the league. You don't want to be playing special teams. So the Islanders, you stay out of the box. You're not on the power play. You're not on the penalty kill. You are more likely to have a better result if you're the New York Islanders. And, getting this win was important because let's face it, you got to beat teams like San Jose at home. Okay. This is a struggling team. Bad teams don't win these games or struggle to win these games. At least the Islanders turned in a strong, respectable performance. I think the presence of all of the Islanders Hall of Famers and all of the dynasty era players that were there did help inspire the Islanders a little bit. Seeing those guys out there before the game certainly helped. And it was just great to see. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that coming up later on in the show. Hero and GOAT of the game. I got to go for the hero with Matthew Barzal edging out Brock Nelson for it and Marcus Hogberg. I don't have a GOAT in this one. I think the Islanders were just steady and responsible and, keeping themselves out of the box and just taking advantage of the opportunities that they had. I am not going to pick a GOAT for this game. I just don't see that there was anybody playing really poorly. And most guys had shots. Most guys were involved in this game in one way, shape, or form. So overall, happy with this performance. Not like, oh my gosh, the Islanders have suddenly turned a corner, but they took care of business. And that's what they need to do in a game against the Sharks at home, where, that's a game you should win. They did. They did it efficiently. They did it well. And now you got to build on that. All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. We'll talk a little bit about the ceremony honoring Brent Sutter, his legacy, having all of these all-time Islander greats in the building. Plus, we will preview tonight's game against the Columbus Blue Jackets as the homestand continues. This is a huge game. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a defenseman who joined the Islanders in the mid-2000 teens and stayed with the team through 2020 when injuries forced him to retire. Let's see if you can guess who this former defenseman is. And yes, he won a Stanley Cup with the Bruins before joining the Islanders. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. And Islander fans, use your knowledge of hockey and the Islanders to find some exciting opportunities on FanDuel. Check out the latest odds for tonight's game against Columbus. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So they honored Brent Sutter before the game on Saturday. And I'll tell you, it was great to see the Islanders doing this. Sutter, 62 years old now, still in hockey as the owner and GM of the Red Deer Rebels, part of the Sutter family. 5 brothers playing in the NHL. Now some of the next generation of Sutters has reached the NHL. And, Brent Sutter, as always, humble, direct, to the point, and absolutely deserving of this honor. And, he told some great stories about Al Arbor calling him into his office to talk about the way he played the game. And, all of this was just really, really fitting and brought back so many great memories. And wow, these guys are getting older. I mean, Brent Sutter is one of the younger guys from the Dynasty era. And like I said, he's 62. We've already lost Mike Bossy and Clark Gillies and a number of the other early, 70s and Islanders and 80s Islanders. But boy, it was great to see Bryan Trottier and John Tonelli and just so many of those guys back out there on the ice. Denis Potvin to celebrate, Brent Sutter. And, Brent Sutter was with the Islanders for 12 seasons. He played almost 700 games, and it was ironic, right? You're honoring Brent Sutter. And during the game, Brock Nelson scores and moves into 5th place ahead of Brent Sutter for 5th in the all-time Islanders goal list. And then Matthew Barzal earns an assist to pass Sutter for 9th in assists all time. So, yeah, that there was a little irony in the timing, but you know what? Brent Sutter, 287 goals, 610 points in 694 games as an Islander. Solid defensive player, more than capable of scoring, had 42 goals and 102 points in 1984-85 and made the All-Star game that year with the Islanders. Wore the captaincy, went over 30 goals on 2 other occasions, 29 goals in a year on a couple of more. He was just one of those hard-working but skilled and determined players who absolutely, worked in the corners, worked in front of the goal, got the job done, was responsible defensively, got Selke Trophy votes a number of times, and just really, he's one of those players, with the exception of the 102-point season, who wasn't going to make headlines around the league other than the fact that he was, one of the Sutter brothers, and you had Brian and Daryl and Dwayne and Rich and Ron. But again, just one of those guys that if you watched him play game in and game out, you really got an appreciation for A, the work he put in, and B, the results he got. And wow, the Islanders giving him that Hall of Fame plaque. Great to see that. And seeing Jigs McDonald back doing the emceeing. Jigs, a class act and a great broadcaster. Great to talk hockey with him. He absolutely did a great job again. And, when you hear that voice, those of us who are old enough to remember the dynasty years, you go right back to it. Ed Westfall was there. It was just a really heartwarming night. And I think it really did inspire the modern players. And here's the other thing. It has been almost 40 years since Brent Sutter, left Long Island. The last season that he played with the New York Islanders was 1991-92. So it's been 33 years, roughly, since he was traded. And yet, the fact that he is part of this dynasty era, won 2 Stanley Cups with the Islanders, absolutely the connection that fans still have with the Bobby Nystroms and the Bryan Trottiers and the Denis Potvins and the Billy Smiths and, even some of the secondary guys on that team who weren't in the Hall of Fame but were just great Islanders, even if they're not Hall of Fame, hockey Hall of Fame guys. The bond that team has with the fans, with each other, that hasn't really diminished in the 40 years since the Islanders last won a Stanley Cup. And, as much as the modern era players who have been here a long time, your Anders Lees, your Brock Nelsons, those guys are loved and respected, the Matt Martins and Cal Clutterbucks. But when you deliver not just 1 championship, but 4 championships in a row, and you make 5 straight appearances in the Stanley Cup final, and you win 19 straight playoff series, there is, and I think always will be, a place in the hearts of Islander fans and Long Island for guys like Brent Sutter and all the guys I mentioned previously. But here's the other thing, and I think this is also part of the message that the modern team got out of this game. You win here on Long Island, you will be remembered forever by hockey fans. As long as there are Long Island hockey fans, you will be remembered. And this team got a certain amount of respect and affection and passion from the fans by just going to the conference final in back-to-back years now in 2020 and 2021. But boy, if they ever could really be contenders and win another championship, what it would mean to Long Island and what it would mean for their legacy is a whole different level that is out there for the taking. So hopefully it continues to inspire the modern players, and hopefully the Islanders as an organization will at some point have something more recent than 1980, 81, 82, and 83 to celebrate for this franchise. All right. Congratulations again to Brent Sutter. We've got more to discuss. Islanders and Blue Jackets tonight at the UBS Arena. We will have a full preview of that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day. All that still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Stanley Cup. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required, and it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/LockedOnNHL. Go to SelectQuote.com/LockedOnNHL today to get started. SelectQuote, they shop, you save. I want to thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from our hosts, Steele and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Islanders and Blue Jackets. Tonight, 7:30 Eastern time. This is a big game. This is the second of 4 meetings between these two teams. The Blue Jackets won the first meeting back in Columbus on October 30th by a score of 2-0. So very important that the Islanders get back here. And look, little doubt about this. The Blue Jackets, who were on a winning streak until they lost to the Rangers 1-0 on Saturday in a shootout. They are right now in a playoff spot, 4th place in the Metro, with 51 points in 46 games. So the Islanders are 8 points back of Columbus with 1 game in hand. And the Blue Jackets, they're getting it done with offense. They are 6th in the league in goals scored, but 28th in goals against. The power play, 12th in the league at 23.1%. The penalty kill, 26th, 74.6%. So right now, the Blue Jackets just getting it done. Zach Werenski leading the team with 36 assists and 51 points. Kirill Marchenko, 18 goals, followed by Dmitry Voronkov with 17. But they're getting balanced scoring. If you look at it right now, 7 different Blue Jackets have at least 10 goals on the season. And, that balance really does help. The goalies, Daniil Tarasov and Elvis Merzlikins. And right now, Merzlikins 16, 10, and 3. But he has a .305 goals against and a .890 save percentage, still better numbers than Tarasov, who is 4-6-2, a .364 goals against, and an .872 save percentage. Now, in their last game, it was Tarasov who got the shutout and, yes, the loss in the shootout. So whether they go back with Tarasov, who is coming off, a great game for him, or they go back to Elvis, that remains to be seen. The line combinations right now for the Blue Jackets, and again, this team has been hitting on all cylinders. Adam Fantilli, young, talented, first-line center. He centers Voronkov and Marchenko. The second line, Cole Sillinger, son of former Islander. He centers James Van Riemsdyk and Kent Johnson. The third line is Luca Del Belluz, centering Zach Aston Reese and Matthew Olivier. Sean Curley centers Mikhail Pitya and Kevin LeBanc on the fourth line. On the blue line, Zach Werenski, he is by far their catalyst. Dante Fabro is his defense pair. Denton Matichuk and Ivan Provorov are the middle pair. Jake Christensen and Damon Severson are the third pair. As I mentioned, the goalies, Tarasov and Merzlikins. A lot of players on IR right now. Sean Monahan, Justin Danforth, Eric Branson, Boone Jenner, and Igor Chinakhov. So this is not even the healthiest team. When you look at the Blue Jackets and everything they've been through, Johnny Gaudreau's tragic passing, losing Boone Jenner, here's a team that has really bonded together in order to play better hockey and just rally around each other. And they have taken a big step forward. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. The Islanders, by comparison, an even 5-5. So you're 8 points behind with a game in hand. Again, if you lose this game, you're 10 points behind Columbus with a game in hand. If you lose in regulation, if you win in regulation, suddenly you're 6 points back with a game in hand. That is a big 4-point swing. So, yeah, they needed to beat San Jose in order to keep their playoff hopes even semi-realistic. But winning in regulation against Columbus would be absolutely huge, and they're going to have to get it done with defense because there should be some scoring opportunities available for the New York Islanders against Columbus, but you can't let Werenski in particular have room to operate and set things up. He is dangerous and deadly. All right, big game coming up tonight, but now it's time for our Islanders birthday of the day. And Sunday was the 41st birthday of former Islanders defenseman Johnny Boychuk. The Edmonton, Alberta native, a second-round pick of the Avalanche in 2002, but made his NHL debut with the Avs in 07-08. But then, after just 4 games in Colorado, went to Boston, played for the Bruins, won a cup with the Bruins in 2011, joined the Islanders just before the start of the 2014-2015 season, and gave the Islanders 6 solid seasons on the blue line. Could put some points on the board, had 35 points in 2014-2015, his first year on the island, and was steady in his own zone, still active in the Islanders organization in an advisory capacity. Played in 725 NHL games before, unfortunately, injuries cut his career short. 54 goals, 206 points, 331 penalty minutes at 104 playoff games, 13 goals, 30 points, 40 penalty minutes. And again, he did win a Stanley Cup with Boston, but he did play in 25 playoff games with the Islanders. One of his better games as an Islander, how about his very first, October 10th, 2014, Islanders visiting the Carolina Hurricanes in Raleigh. Yaroslav Halak, the goalie for the Islanders, Cam Ward in between the pipes for Carolina, and Johnny Boychuk got the scoring started on the power play late in the first period. Kyle Oposo and Pajama Boy with the assist at 17:06. That made it 1-0 Islanders. And then less than 2 minutes later, Boychuk and Tavares set up Brock Nelson for a goal to make it 2-0 Islanders. Boychuk sets up Brock Nelson on the power play in the second period in order to extend the lead, and the Islanders go on to a 5-3 win. 21 saves for Yaroslav Halak, but for Johnny Boychuk, our Islanders' birthday of the day, he had a goal and 2 assists in his Islanders debut. A 3.90 was a +1, and he scored that goal on 2 shots on goal while playing 23 minutes and 11 seconds. So Johnny Boychuk is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everybody who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, we will be back tomorrow. We'll have our key takeaways from this game against Columbus and hopefully some good news, because a win really would help the Islanders' chances of staying in the race. We'll also have the latest updates on injuries and only one more game after this, by the way, for the Tsyplakov suspension. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. So if you leave your first name and where you're from, we will do that for you. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR_VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.